Shit. Gave me a, World Boss gave me a red shard. Blood?
Yeah, if you don't have the leech one, that's where you get it from. It's supposed to be like an entry point to the domination socket system, but I always sell it. It's like a couple gold.
I will say, if your shards are red, you should probably go see a doctor. Something is seriously wrong. Nothing. Man, tough crap.
I didn't have my button pushed when I was laughing.
I just didn't think it was funny.
That's more like, that's believable.
Dude, I'm on stream. You can... I have proof that I was actually chuckling at it.
I have to actually watch your stream now.
Well,
Yeah, and who does that?
fuck you guys.
Ooh, got him!
I walked into that one. That's fair. Alright. Those ridiculousness people aside, let's talk about the 9.2 changes and what we got going on here. So these are just the stuff that was announced in today's PTR update. Hopefully this isn't the last of the class changes, because everything that I did in the video that I'll link to in the upper right corner here, that way, I think, yeah, you can't really, that over that way. So I'll link to that video so you guys can see what class changes I've thought would be prudent for 9.2. But let's talk about the ones that they did announce today. Revolve a lot around Death Knight, which is cool because I've been getting back into Death Knight, despite the fact that I thought I was not going to be playing Death Knight at all this expansion. The class grips me back in no matter what. Unintended. Let's talk about Death Knight, and a lot of it revolves around the Necrolord Covenant. The Abomination Limbed is getting its damage increased by 20%. Cool, more damage is never bad. I don't like that it's on Abomination Limb. I kind of wished it was being put into some of the abilities baseline, but more damage is more damage. The Necrolord Rune Carving Power, so the Necrolord Covenant Legendary Abomination's Frenzy, increases the damage taken from the Death Knight by an additional 10%, was 10, now 20, and then taking increased damage from your minions for the duration. So this is really good for Unholy, because obviously they always have a minion out. Between the Ghoul, the Risen Skulker, if you do All Will Serve, your Apocalypse minions, your Army of the Dead minions, your Summon Gargoyle if you go that route, which if you're playing Summon Gargoyle, power to you, but please spec in the Army of the Dead. And so Unholy, very clear benefit for Blood, and for Frost, what you'll probably want to do is your Raised Ghoul ability first and then hit Abomination Limbs, so that your Raised Ghoul that's only temporary gets the benefit of this Rune Carving Power in 9.2. So definitely want to do that. Some Conduit buffs. Convocation of the Dead reduces the cooldown of Apocalypse by 1 per Festering Wound burst at all ranks, then increased Festering Wound damage by 15%. I'm going to assume the 15% is the scaling part that goes up as Conduit ranks up. But obviously very big AoE implications, because if you run Bursting Sores, which gives you big damage, but you Scourge Strike a lot of targets underneath Death and Decay, that's 5, 6, 7, 8 targets that you're hitting. I don't know if that cooldown is capped at all, but if it's not, then that's some pretty big reduction on Apocalypse, which means you can basically have Apocalypse up roughly every 90 seconds or so. But not bad. Eternal Hunger, which we use right now in almost all situations, gives another 3% minion damage, so good little damage buff there for Unholy. Embrace Death causes Sudden Doom to increase death coil damage by 40%, so that's an additional 5% from what it was. This is good for single target builds where you use the Death Coil Legendary, so probably not a bad idea there. And then Brutal Grasp, which is the Necrolord Covenant conduit, gives an additional 15% damage from 15 to 30, so good for all Death Knights there. So very clearly, Unholy, I think, is going to be looking at Necrolord as their Covenant for all content, and then and maybe even Two-Handed Frost because of the way that they're set up. I think that Breath of Sindragosa builds will still favor Venthyr for the runic power generation to make your breath build as long as possible. Blood, I think, is good with both in Mythic Plus, Venthyr or Necrolord, but still looking at like Kyrian and single target. maybe even an AoE as well. So Blood's got a lot of flexibility, but I think this pretty much locks Necrolord in for Unholy DK, which, depending on your point of view, may not be a good or bad thing. Demon Hunter stuff, I don't know a lot about this, so if you're a Demon Hunter player, please respond in chat or in the comments of the YouTube video, whether or not you like this or not. But Blade Dance and Chaos Strike getting more damage, that increases AoE and single target damage, so pretty cool. And then every 60 Fury you consume reduces the cooldown of Metamorphosis by 1 second. I know that one of the concerns was the original 4-piece bonus was like really favoring the demonic build setup and was kind of pushing momentum out of the build path. And Blizzard wants to kind of allow both of them to be viable with the tier set. So I think this does a good job of making that work. It's a little bit of a boring tier set, honestly, but I think it's going to be one that works well for Havoc in allowing the demonic playstyle, which is, if I played Havoc, what I probably prefer, versus Momentum, which I know a lot of people love. So, and then the Vengeance 4-piece was reworked, so instead of Immolation Aura being extended for consuming soul fragments, you basically reduce the cooldown of Immolation Aura or Fell Devastation by 1 second. That's interesting to me because I don't know if it's gonna like pick and choose one. Like if one's on cooldown and one's not, obviously it'll probably pick the one that's on cooldown. But what if they're both on cooldown? How do you decide which cooldown to reduce? Like that's a dynamic I need to know what goes on with. But I think this is a good change because 100% uptime on Immo Aura made VDH basically unkillable. If you go to the GGWow YouTube channel, which great guys by the way, follow them. If you don't and watch their latest like weekly clips video, it's about 8 minutes long. The very first one is Dratnos in raid testing, legitimately unable to die until he clicks off Immo Aura, even though he's got all the mobs targeting his back and stuff because he's just healing so much. Hunter gets a base UI update, so nothing there. Ashen Hollow gets tooltip updates. Shaman, of course, we know about the two new Ghost Wolf forms, so cool for them. Warlock tier sets. I've been looking at messing around with Warlock just to learn the class a little bit, but I'm not comfortable saying if these are good or not. So Warlock players, again, in the chat or in the YouTube comments, please let me know if these are good or bad changes. When Malefic Rapture extends Absolute Corruption, it causes the target to take damage equivalent to a tick of corruption. So is that on top of the tick already? So that's nice little mini burst windows there on Malefic Rapture. And then Drained Soul's chance to trigger for your Malefic Rapture has been increased to 10% from 4%. That's a big buff to that 4-piece bonus, so that's nice. My question is the Malefic Rapture able to be the free Malefic Rapture used while channeling Drained Soul, or does it cut off your Drained Soul casts? I think that is a question that I have. If you know the answer, please let me know. But if it doesn't cut off, then I think this is a nice bonus. If it does cut off your Drained Soul channel, then it's probably crap. It's my guess. Demonology 4-piece gets reworked to be less resource generation and more just a chance to summon more demons, which I think is good because the limited time that I've played Demonology, even at crap stats, like super low item level, I feel really good about my Soul Shard generation. So I don't feel like I'm ever lacking for resources or for demons. Like the only thing stopping me from having more is the fact that my haste levels are low. But I imagine if you're sitting 250 to 255-ish item level, whatever the max you can cap out on this tier is, and you're playing a heavy haste build, you're probably feeling really good about your ability to always have a rotation of demons going out pretty much all the time. So I like that this just gives more chance for a Malicious Imp, which, apologies, I don't know how much different it is from a regular Imp, but any chance to summon more demons for the spec that has probably one of the coolest aesthetics in the game is fine with me. And then Destruction, chance to trigger the effect is no longer random. Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire can now be cast for free after every 10 Soul Shards spent. But that's pretty cool. Makes the spec feel a lot more smoother, a lot more predictable, which has kind of always been Destruction's thing versus Affliction and Demo. So I think that's a good change for Destruction locks. And then they changed the name of the 4-piece bonus and summons a Blasphemy Infernal instead of a generic Infernal. If the Blasphemy Infernal is already active and would have been summoned again, it gets a duration extension, which I think is very cool, and does impact damage at its current location. That's also cool. And then it also grants Reign of Chaos for its duration if it is talented. So that's a good AoE component. The question is does the Blasphemy Infernal do the same thing that the generic Infernal does with Soul Shard generation? Is it constantly generation fragments for you? If it does, potentially double stacking your fragment cooldowns for a big window there instead of like Heroism, for example. Or you can spread it out. Depending on what the 4-piece does, can you time it so that you have a Blasphemy Infernal, get massive Soul Shard fragment generation, and then once that goes away, you summon your regular Infernal, continue that big Soul Shard generation. Some interesting potential interactions there. If you're a Warlock that's tested this, or a Warlock main or main alt, please let me know if these are any good. They sound better to me, but there's some interaction questions that I have. I'll probably go find Kalamazi and go find him, but if you have any thoughts on this, please let me know. So we're going to skip the player versus player. The rune carving thing is the thing that I'm the most frustrated by, honestly. So the Cinch of Unity, this is the covenant swapping Lego. From everything that we've been told is that basically you're going to get it at belt slot early, but this right here, if you want to craft it on a new armor slot, you basically have to do it through the creation catalyst, it sounds like. Or rune carving memory is available on the Enlightened Reputation vendor. So this is the ability. So like for me, my monk is on belt slots for Brewmaster and Mistweaver. So for me, I would want the rune carving spot, the belt covenant swapping rune carver spot on like my wrist. And the fact that it's sounding like I'll have to grind a reputation in order to be able to do that, whereas say like Fyrus is able to get his one much earlier because he uses his in like cloak or legs or bracers or feet, whatever spot it is. That sounds like, for me, as someone that has limited playtime, doesn't get on to grind reps every day, it spends a lot of time in dungeons and then does the rep grinds when he can, this is going to put me very behind the 8 ball in terms of the grind to get double legendaries. So one of two things happens. Either I'm losing out in-game financially because I have to find and spend the gold. And I mean, if you look at all of my characters, look, I'm not rich, guys. I have 89,000 gold total. And I think it was about 89,000 to get my Hunter Wildfire Cluster rank 6. So I'm not rich. So this is going to be a struggle for me as someone that doesn't earn gold all that well and stuff like that. So I'm out in that currency, or I'm out on power because I choose not to recraft legendaries, but I have to grind this and I get it much later. Thanks for the specific correction, Fires. I appreciate it. Back for enhance, hands for elemental. So he can get his belt slot, no problem. I have to recraft in order to do that if I want to get it early, or I suffer a pretty decent loss of power because Call to Arms and Bountiful Brew are both really good. And then of course Fenthir for Mistweaver is really good. Call to Arms really good for Mistweaver as well. So I'm losing out on a good chunk of power because I either have to find a way to earn the gold to recraft because they're gate locking the ability to put it on bracers, for example, behind a reputation that I'm going to be slower to get than most of the player base, or I'm out on power because I make the decision not to, just try to grind the rep and go from there. Now, if it's on like friendly, maybe not so bad. If it's on honored, okay, I can deal with it. It won't be fun, but I can deal with it. If it's on like revered or exalted, I'm going to have to find a way to sink the gold. I might have to actually buy a WoW token for the first time in my life because I don't want to be that far behind. For monk players, hey, look, corrosive dosage was nerfed. Who cares? It's still a powerful. You're still going to want to take it 3 times if you get it. It is just still insane. In fact, even before this, you were probably only stacking it 3 times anyways because that was enough to kill pretty much everything within like 2 or 3 Vivifies. So, oh no. Monks and Torghast are no longer extremely broken. We're just very, very broken. It's great. And then the Protoform Synthesis, I'm excited about the idea of crafting my mounts. So, but that's the 9.2 stuff, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to the video. I'm on stream as I'm recording this, so if you're joining me in the stream, appreciate you sticking around. We'll do vaults after this. But until the next video, all, I'm hoping to get a dungeon run up this week, so 2 videos this week instead of 1. So until the next one, I hope you're all staying safe. Hope you're getting scheduled for your vaccinations or your boosters, and see you all in the next video.